Hey, this is Heather Sides. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! In Spokane, Washington. I come to you live once a week on Wednesday nights with 3 projects, usually cards, and show you how I made them, and we make them together. And then once a month I come to you with alternate ideas for your monthly paper pumpkin kit. This month's kit I'm so excited about because it coordinates with my new favorite suite of products in the new annual catalog, and I'm going to share that with you so you can see some of those coordinating projects. So even if you did not get this month's paper pumpkin kit, hopefully you'll see some of these amazing products in use, and it'll spark some interest and creativity of your own. If you're new, welcome. If you're returning, thank you for coming back and joining us. I love conversation going on while we do this. It's how we build our small little community. So be sure to ask questions, offer suggestions, talk to one another, any of that kind of thing. It's just kind of fun. It just makes for a more robust experience while we're doing this. When this is over, I upload it to YouTube. So be sure to share this video on your feed. You never know who might be interested in this kind of thing. And so it does help me get my name out there when you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this camera turned around. We're going to take a look at this suite of products, and then we're going to get going on our cards. How's that sound? Okay, hang on just a second. Oh, before we do that though, I need to, let's see here. I need to get this turned on to my main computer so that I can see your comments in the video. And for some reason, it's just not showing up. So let me try one more thing. Hang on. Well, darn it. Okay, so it does say that I am live, so why it's not showing up, I don't know. I may have to go out and come back in. So let's try that. But I want to be able to see your comments. I like to chat with you guys while I'm doing this. Okay, let's see here. Okay. There we go. Now it says, okay, that worked. I just had to go out and come back in. Sometimes that's all it takes, right? Look at that little Lucy dog that Robin sent me. Hey, Joyce. Hey, Talina. Can you hear me better now, Talina? Robin. Oh, you know what it is? The noise. Thank you, Joyce. The noise is my air conditioner. Hang on, let me turn it off. That should be better. I always, I forget about that. So, okay, we're going to go ahead now and turn the camera around and get going on tonight's cards and looking at the suite, okay? Hang on just a second. Hey, Marcia, welcome. Okay, let's see here. What are the chances of me being able to get this all straight right off the bat? Not when I turn it that way. Oh my goodness. Those of you who join me normally on Wednesday nights know that this is an issue for me. Nah, it's not super hot here today, actually. And our air conditioner doesn't work all that well anyway, so it's not like I notice a whole lot of cool coming from it, so it's not a huge deal to turn it off. Okay, so if you have an annual catalog, by the way, if you don't, and you don't have a demonstrator that you're currently working with, and you would like a copy of this new annual catalog, just came out in May, I would be happy to send one to you. So just let me know. You can send me an email at stamphappenings@gmail.com, or you can send me a private message here on Facebook. Just let me know, and I can pop one in the mail to you. Thanks, Joyce. I was really excited to play with this month's paper pumpkin kit because of the fact that it coordinates with my favorite suite. So, and it's funny that this is my favorite suite because everybody who knows me knows that pink is my color. I do pink everything, and there is no pink whatsoever in this suite, but I love it. I think it reminds me of like old China patterns, kind of, you know, the blue and white China patterns. So, okay. So Marsha loves this suite as well. So anyway, it's on pages 62 and 63 of the catalog if you have it. The stamp set, what's really interesting is this is one big stamp. I don't have the stamps or the dies, but it's one big stamp that you can make all these different frames with. And then there's the coordinating dies to cut out the different stamped patterns. There is also this gorgeous Country Blossoms embossing folder. I've used it a few times on my Wednesday nights, so some of you have seen it. But hold this up close so you can see the pattern. But I really like it, and it coordinates with, this pattern coordinates with some of the paper in our Designer Series paper pack, which I'll show you in a second. It also coordinates with one of the card bases in this month's paper pumpkin kit and the envelopes. And then, let's see, I'm gonna grab the paper. So also in this suite, you can see I've already started chopping away on my paper because I've used it a few times. But there's this gorgeous, gorgeous paper. And I'm just going to kind of flip through it quickly that you can see. I really like the patterns on the backside. I laugh because I've mentioned before that it makes me think of men's boxer shorts, the patterns. But I still love it. I can't get enough of it. So I think it's a really beautiful suite of products. You can do a lot with it. I think you can dress it up or dress it down, depending on how formal or casual you want your cards. So I think this suite is a huge hit in this catalog. Okay, so let me show you the way Paper Pumpkin works. If you have not seen our Paper Pumpkin kits before, when you get the monthly kit, and by the way, you can buy this kit. It's our subscription service where you get, in each month, you get a box just like this with all the products that you need in order to make typically between 9 and 12 projects or cards. Most of the time it's cards, but sometimes like around the holidays and stuff, you see more projects. But anyway, in this box, if it's your first one, you get an acrylic block for your stamps. But then every month you get an ink spot, you get a stamp set, you get the card bases, you get the embellishments. I mean, you get everything you need. The only thing that doesn't come in here that you'll need is a pair of scissors. So it really is a very all-inclusive kit. So for yourself, if you are maybe a new stamper and just trying to get the hang of it, it's a great way to get started. If you're a more seasoned stamper and you just like to think outside the box and do your own thing, it's a great way to do that without having to buy a whole bunch of different products and find out if you like it or, whatever. You can buy a 1-month trial, or you can buy 3, 6, and 12-month subscriptions. And of course, like anything you buy in bulk, the longer the term of the subscription you get, the more the price comes down a little bit. So in your kit, you also get this little, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's like a little flyer kind of thing. And it shows you Stampin' Up! Pre-designs 3 cards. So in this case, everything they sent was enough to make 3 of each of these cards. And I made 1 of each of them just to show you. And I'll show them here in a minute. And then they give you the step-by-step instructions how to make those cards. And of course, like I said, see, there's a picture of everything that came in this kit. This kit had a lot of pieces in it. But you get everything. And if you are someone who likes to think outside the box, there's so much variety, so many different things you can do. And that's the point of tonight's video, is to show you some alternate ideas. So if you want to go beyond these 3 that Stampin' Up! Designed, that's what we're doing. Wow, Joyce just said that she learned today that the Country Inn Suite was the #1 seller on the first day of the new catalog. And you know what? I am not surprised in the least, because it's an amazing kit. But it also, I think, just has some really good universal appeal, too. Okay, so the 3 cards that Stampin' Up! Designed, I'll show you. These are the envelopes that came in it. You got 9 envelopes like this. And those of you who follow me regularly know I like to decorate my envelopes, and I did very little of that tonight because if the envelope coordinated with what I made, I didn't bother decorating an envelope. So here was one of the cards designed by Stampin' Up. Here's the second card. And it's kind of funny, I used this envelope, but it really doesn't match, but that's the way, this is the way Stampin' Up put it together, and I try to really stick to what Stampin' Up did when I put these together. Marcia, no, you're not still able to purchase this Paper Pumpkin kit. The way Paper Pumpkin works, that's an excellent question. You have until the 10th of the month to sign up for the kit, and then on the 11th, they start shipping it, and you can no longer order it. Also, on the 11th, when they start shipping that kit, you can start signing up for the next month's kit. So at this point in time, if you were to sign up for the kit, you would get next month's kit, the one that will ship July 11th. And here's the third card. I made a mistake when I was making these. After, in hindsight, I realized they used dimensionals behind this to pop it up off the card a little bit, but you can see it still looks really nice, even glued down flat on the card. So those are the 3 cards that Stampin' Up designed for us. But let's go ahead and we'll get going on the ones that I designed for us to make tonight. And then I also have 3 additional cards that I made that I'll share with you when we're all done, okay? So our first card right here, I chose to take advantage of that beautiful Calypso Coral card base, and I chopped it up a little bit and paired it with some of our Calypso Coral cardstock. And then there were these little dies in the kit. There were these little pots. Some of them were white, so you could stamp them, and some were this. Nope, I was about to lie to you. Some were like this, but in a blue pattern that we'll use in a little bit. But what I did here is I actually took the dies. This month, you had the option, let me find them here, of ordering some coordinating dies with the kit if you wanted. And these were the dies that I got. You got this pot. This actually coordinates with the flower in the stamps. I'll show you the stamps in a second. I forgot to do that. And then these leaves. And it was like $7 for the additional dies. So it's not a bad price at all. So anyway, for this pot right here, I took one of the dies and I cut it out of one of the card bases. The stamps that came in the kit this month, put them up against some white paper so you can see them better. There's this kind of fun little pattern, this pot, this flower. I have no idea what that little line is. A decorative line, I don't know. And then the kind of theme of this month's kit had to do with hospitality and welcome. And so the stamps say, welcome, thank you for your hospitality, you're invited, and friend. And they're pretty tiny sentiments. So if you're doing something on your own, you may choose to bring in another stamp that you have that has other sentiments if you want something a little bit bigger. Okay, Joyce just said that this little line is a stem for that flower. That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Okay, so here's our first card we're going to make. It's on a white card base. There's the inside. Pretty easy. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by decorating the envelope, and for this one we're going to just stamp on the flap there. So I get a bit of scrap paper here. Tanya's saying flower stem too. Oh, and so is Talina. So it sounds like that's what most people went with on this, with this set of stamps. Okay, so I've got my Calypso Coral ink, and I've already put my thumb in it. Oh my goodness. I haven't even started stamping and I've already started inking myself. Okay, so got this great stamp. It's a nice little fat-bodied pot. And I'm just going to stamp the pot in sort of random directions and patterns all over the envelope. When you do something like this,
it's important to go ahead and go off the edge, as you see that I'm doing. What it does is it just kind of provides some movement for the eye, that it looks like it keeps going. Okay, so my envelope is done. I'm going to leave my ink out because we're going to do just a little bit of stamping here. So I've got the 2 white pots. Let me double check. I don't think I stamped inside my card. I did not. Okay, so what I need now is I have my gray granite ink, and I'm going to stamp with both of these colors onto my little pots here. So I'm going to use this stamp, the one that's the pattern, just kind of a random pattern, and I'm going to use the going gray, or gray granite. And on one of them, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the bottom and the top. And then the other one, I'm going to kind of stamp right through the middle. There we go. Then I'm going to take the little flower stamp, and I'm going to use my Calypso Coral. And on this one, where I stamped the top and the bottom, I'm going to stamp flowers in the middle. And then my other one, I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of the edges of the flowers along the top and the bottom. It just adds a little bit of color. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and close my ink pads. And I did not put a sentiment on this card. I don't see myself sending out a whole lot of cards that use the theme, the welcome, and thanks for your hospitality and such. But I do use cards that have no sentiment in them a lot because I can use them for anything. So our card base is a half of a sheet of basic white. And I see you guys are all laughing about the whole getting ink on myself because you guys can completely relate. Yeah, it's something that we do, right? I mean, if you don't have ink all over yourself, did you really stamp? Okay, so it's a half of a sheet of basic white. It's cut lengthwise, so it's 4 1/4 inches wide. It's 11 inches long, and then I scored it in the middle at 5 1/2 inches. So go ahead and fold it, and I'm going to take my bone folder and just get a nice crisp edge there. Set this aside for the moment. And there's a lot of pieces to this card. They're not difficult, it's just there's a lot of pieces. So here's my other little pot. So I'm going to put it over here with these guys. So this piece is going to go on this. I'm going to sort these out right now just to make sure that I get all my pieces where they belong. So let's see, it looks like this one fits on this one, which fits on this one. And then these, uh-oh, am I missing my little piece for the inside? I can cut another one if I am. Well, gosh darn it, I am. Okay, I'll get another one in a minute here. This piece looks like it's, oh no, it's, yeah, it's right here. We're okay. We're okay, everybody. Okay. This is going to go on the inside of my card. And then these are going to be used to layer behind this bigger piece right here. Okay, now that I have my act together, I mean, as much as I'm going to get it together, right? I'm going to go ahead and attach this piece. Now this is just one of the card bases that came in the kit that I cut down. And I love this little fox. Now in the paper pack, the Designer Series paper pack, there's a piece very similar, or a pattern very similar to this with these cute little foxes, but it's blue. All of the paper is done in blue. Okay, so now I'm just going to line this up, try to get it right about the center. I was having coffee with a friend last night, and I was just explaining that the way I operate is ish, not perfect. So get it straight-ish. Okay, now we can go ahead and I'm going to actually get all my pieces, I think, put together just so that I don't have all these little tiny strips hanging out. So now I'm going to take the Calypso coral and put it right on the edge, each edge here. Okay, so flip this over. I do like to use liquid glue for this, just because it stays wet a little bit longer. It is gray granite, Tanya, the gray granite ink or cardstock. Okay, so let's see here. I do like to use the liquid glue because it doesn't adhere strongly right off the bat, which gives me a chance to kind of move things around if I don't have it straight or whatever. Just gives me a little bit of wiggle room. So now I'm going to do that on the other side. And these strips are just 1/2 inch wide strips, but as you can see, I'm using very little of it as the edge. I just like to have a big enough piece to really glue it in place. But the 1/2 inch is much wider than what I truly need. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing with this gray granite. So a little bit of glue along the edge. A little bit of this glue goes a very, very long way. If you are not accustomed to using our Tombow liquid glue, it takes some getting used to as far as getting the feel for what's the right amount, but it really takes very, very little. If you put too much on, because it's wet, it can make your paper warp. Plus, you also run into the issue of having glue kind of squeezing out all of the edges and things like that. And that gets messy. So just a little bit. I know in the video it looks like quite a bit here, but I'm not even taking the tip off of my paper, so it's not even really able to get any kind of good speed coming out of the bottle before it's stuck to the paper. So, okay, so I don't know how well you can see because I did such a fine little edge there. I just wanted enough to make it pop off of my card. So let's set that aside for the moment. Now I've got this one here. These 3 pieces, I'm just going to layer them. Now, one thing to watch for, which I forgot to do when I made my sample card, and I'll show you guys in a minute. Remember that there are foxes on this card-based paper, so you want to make sure that it's right side up, or you will have upside down foxes on your card, like I do on mine. And again, I'll show you that in a minute, because, you know, if you can't laugh at yourself, right? Okay, there's this little strip here. Okay, so this one's done. Let's do this one, and then we're ready to just start putting our card together. It's pretty fast. Even though there's a lot of pieces to this card, it does come together pretty quickly. Okay. Now, same with this, the strip that's going to go inside your card. Make sure if there's any foxes showing in the strip, make sure they're right side up. Okay. All right. I think we're about ready. I need to put on my glasses. Okay. So now I'm going to take my card base and take care of the inside of my card. All I'm going to do is just do a little line of the glue here. I want to make sure it goes all the way to the edge there. I like to leave a little bit of a white edge of my card most of the time. You, however, if you prefer not to leave that, you can have that strip go all the way to the edge of your card. And there we go. The inside is now done. Now we'll do these front pieces. I'm going to go ahead and glue this one on right about there. So I would say it's about a 1/3 of an inch, maybe to a 1/2 inch from the top. Oops. And you don't have to be exact. It's just a matter of spacing. I'm just a little bit crooked here, so get everything lined up better. Okay, and now this strip I want to put down here about halfway between the bottom of this and the bottom of my card. Now what you could do if you wanted, you could even put this down a little lower and give yourself some room, put a sentiment right there in the middle. Again, I chose not to put a sentiment on this card, which is why I wanted to center this between the bottom of this section and the bottom of the card. Okay, so now I've got my 2 little pots that I stamped, and I'm just going to use, again, I'm using my liquid glue, but you can use whichever glue works best for you. And I'm going to put them on the card right here like this at just a little bit of an angle. And then now I have the one that I punched out of the card front. And of course, when I punched them out, I didn't look at the direction of my paper, and look, now I have a sideways box. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. So we're going to put a couple dimensionals here. Whoops, I am shedding really bad right now between me and Lucy, my dog. Okay. This is probably more dimensionals than you need to use, so if you tend to be a dimensional hoarder and you don't like to use too many, then you certainly don't need to put as many on as I do. Oh, good. Lucy, the rocks stay outside. Lucy's bringing me a rock. Okay, so I used my dimensionals here, and I just kind of offset this. And notice I made it so it's a little bit lower than the other two, just because I wanted it to kind of be set a little different. And then I have tiny little bit of gray Baker's Twine. This comes in our Baker's Twine Essentials pack that comes with 5 colors. It comes with very vanilla, white, black, gray, and crumb cake. So all basic colors that you would use a lot. And now I'm just going to fiddle with this a little bit, get my little loops and my tails to be the size that I want them to be. And the same size at that. Oh, this is wanting to twist a little, and I don't like it when it does that. Okay, looks like my one loop is just slightly bigger than the other. So let's try to get these so they're about the same size. Again, ish, not perfect. So it does look like I've got them about how I want them. I'm gonna wait to trim the tails until it's on the card, because then I just have a better idea of where they fall. So I'm gonna take my glue dots. And because Baker's Twine is so thin, it's kind of hard to hide the glue dot, even though they're small, behind that little knot. So what I do is I take my Take Your Pick tool and I sort of lift it up, and I don't know how well you can see it, but I'm sort of rolling it and just kind of clumping it together, and it makes like a little log, a little glue log. There we go. And now I'm going to put it right here on the pot or vase, or, you know, whatever it is. I suppose since it doesn't have flowers sticking out of it, it could be a vase. Or yeah. Okay. So now I've stuck that on there. The tails are a little longer than what I would like, so I'm going to go ahead and trim them. Looks like the one is a little bit longer than the other, so let's fix that. There. Okay, then last minute detail here, I'm going to put some dots on the card. I'm using my 2023-2025 in color dots. This is kind of a fun pack. They're sparkly, or well, shiny, shimmery. And then it comes in all 5 of the new in colors. I'm going to use the Pebble Path, and I'm just going to stick a bunch of these guys on the card. Keeps twisting around. Okay, let's see. Right there. Okay, there we go. That's card number 1. Quick and easy, right? Okay, let's see. There we go. With our matching envelope, we've got the inside of our card, and you can send it for anything because we didn't put a sentiment on it or in it. So now let's move, we'll clean up this little bit of a mess and move on to card number 2. Now, card number 2 is another one that's going to be easy to do, but it is time consuming, and I will show you why. I love this one. I think this one might be my favorite, but here's why it's so time consuming. See all these little leaves on here? This is the die cut. So it's a bunch of these. I think I cut 25 white ones, 10 boho blue, and 10 night of navy. So it was a lot of die cutting to get to this point. Once that prep work is done, however, it goes pretty fast. And that's the inside of the card right there. So we have the envelope. We don't need to decorate this one at all because it coordinated with the card that we're making. So let's start by just building our card base. We'll do the inside of our card. This is one of the card bases that came with the kit. And it's just plain Night of Navy. And it's white on the inside, so I don't need to add a white panel for writing my sentiment. Holy cow, I don't know what my deal is today. I have lost my bone folder 1,000 times today. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 pieces. This one was also one of the card bases, and I just chopped it up. But if I hadn't had this card base, this looks exactly like one of the designs in the Designer Series paper. So you could use that. And I'm going to mount it on some boho blue, and then we'll mount that onto the card. This particular one, I don't know if you can see where it's got little bite marks there. Yeah, I guess you can't really see it. If I get it too close to the camera, it's blurry, but you can kind of see how it's a little bit bent up. Yeah, I'm not going to name any names, but let's just say someone in my household stole it off my desk and tried to run away with it in her mouth. A little thief. Okay, so now let's go ahead and just glue that down on our card. This card also has very little stamping. In fact, let's go ahead and do our stamping now because I do need that piece for the inside. So this is just a little strip that I cut down when I was trimming this down to the size that I wanted it. And the sentiment that I'm going to use on this, it just says friend, and I don't think you can see that because it's so small. Yes, Joyce, it was Jackson. Darn it, he always tries to eat my stamp stuff. Okay, so I'm going to use Night of Navy, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment on one end of this banner. So right about there, I think. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that to line up right. Dare I try? Oh, that's ugly. That's ugly. But, you know what? We can still make this work. Okay. So what I'm going to do is try it again. Okay, that's better. And then I'm just going to trim this. It's crooked, but we're going to go with it. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue this onto my card, just right here. Looks like my cut isn't real straight, and because I'm doing it right on the edge like that, I do want it to be straight. Well, now it's probably crooked in the other direction. Kind of like when I cut my own bangs. Okay, so now I'm going to glue this down, just a little bit of liquid glue. And I'm playing with it. The ink wasn't quite dry yet, so now I'm smudging it everywhere. Good job, Heather. I have a little glue blob stuck in there. And you know the danger of that is that all of a sudden it comes shooting out of there, and then you have glue everywhere. It is all about the ish, Joyce. You are so right. Okay. So then I'm just going to glue it right on there so it's right up against the edge of this designed paper. I'm going to close my ink pad before something bad happens. And then we're going to go ahead and do the inside of our card. Now, my inside is going to be a little bit shorter than it was in my sample because I did have to trim this down. And you can do your own little banner tip like that, or banner end. You just cut a little way down the center, and then from the corners you cut in to where you cut the center. Then I've got this piece, I'm going to do the same thing. Cut just a little bit down. And then from the corner to that cut, from the other corner to the cut. Oops. There. Oops, I'm dropping everything. Okay. Now what I did is I liked it so that the blue one came out a little bit further than the print. And so I'm going to make sure that that edge of the blue is right up against the edge of my card. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these together first. Put it right about there. And again, with the liquid glue, then you can kind of move things around to get it positioned the way that you want it. And now I'm going to just trim off this edge here where I've got a little extra. And we're going to go ahead and glue it to the inside of the card. Just right up to the edge. And that's all there is to that. Okay, now, here's where all those little die cut leaves are going to come into play. Let's move some stuff out of the way here. Look at all these leaves. Lots and lots of leaves. And I wanted the majority of my little wreath to be white, which is why I cut so many more of the white leaves than I did the other colors. And I'm going to start by just putting glue around the edge here. Now we're going to want to move pretty fast because the glue will dry. And I mean, you can always add more glue, not a big deal, but okay, so we're going to start with some white. And what I typically do is I think of it like a clock, and I start at 12 o'clock, then I do 6 o'clock, then 3 and 9 o'clock, and notice I'm not having them go perfectly, curve with the circle. I'm having them stick up a little bit, and that'll add a little bit of fullness. So let's add some more. Now, if you don't like getting glue all over your fingers, I would suggest using like a pair of tweezers or something for this part because, I mean, they're so tiny, it's hard to lay them down on that glue without getting the glue on your fingers. And now I'm just starting to fill it in. Whoops. I think maybe I'll put a navy one here. My fingers are all gluey and I don't like it. Okay, now let's see, we've got to put a little boho blue one in there. Oops. And I don't really have a particular order where I'm putting the boho blue or the night of navy. I just kind of, I didn't want it to be so exact that it looked like a pattern. But I'm getting these all the way around, and then what I'll do is, if it looks kind of sparse in some areas, I'm going to glue some to the back where they stick up, and it just kind of fills that gap in a little bit. Let's get this guy because he's sticking up saying, "Pick me, pick me." And my glue is starting to dry a little bit, so I'm probably going to have to add more here pretty soon, which isn't a big deal. I just found that it's quicker to do it this way and put all the glue down and add more if I need it than to add glue to each individual piece because there's just so gosh darn many of them. And if you did not get these dies, not a big deal. Any leaf dies would do this. And I know it still looks kind of funny because it's pretty sparse, so it doesn't quite look like a wreath yet. But when we start filling in the pieces, that's when it'll really start to feel like a wreath. See, so now we have our basic shape. Now what we're going to do is add pieces behind, and that'll kind of thicken it up a little bit. So I'm going to add a little glue here, and it's not going to have quite as many in the back because A, I didn't cut that many, and B, you really don't need to have twice as many. That's probably more glue than I'm going to need, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. So here what I do is I just kind of look for where does it look like I could add some more color, or it just needs a little more fullness, and then I start just filling in pieces. Thank you for your input, Lucy. See how there's kind of a little gap there? And so I'm gonna add another piece right there. I'm gonna need probably a little more glue, I think. Yeah. And this takes, you know, a minute or two to get it filled in. But I mean, it's not bad. It's not hard to do by any stretch. The worst part for me is the glue all over my fingers when I'm done, because I don't like that. See how they're all sticking to me because I have glue on my fingers. And for this reason, it's not a terrible idea to keep baby wipes on your at your craft space because then you can clean it up pretty easily when you get glue on your fingers. Now the reason that I'm doing this from behind is because not only does it add a little more fullness, but also when I add the color pieces, it's not quite so stark because you're only seeing little sections of it, not a whole leaf like you would if I was adding it to the front. Oops. I'm doing a bang-up job getting these stuck to my fingers. What might have worked a little better is to only add the glue in tiny little sections. Do that section and then add more glue. And if there's an area of your wreath that looks a little flat, all you do is you just make sure that the pieces in the back stick up a little bit and it pulls out that fullness. Have I used all my white ones? Eek. Okay. Oh, this glue, I think it's getting close to empty as well. So it's not as cooperative as I would like for it to be. Ah. Yeah, my gluey fingers are kind of causing me problems here now. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I think we're getting close to being done here. And then I'm going to wash my hands because it's going to create lots of problems if I continue to try to stamp and make cards with this much glue on my fingertips. Okay, so we have a nice little wreath there. Give me just a second because I am going to wash my hands. There's just too much glue on them. What I'm going to do is I'm laying this down on my silicone mat because the glue won't adhere to my silicone mat, and that way I can kind of do this to flatten everything out and get everything pressed in really well. Okay, give me just a moment. Okay, I think that's better. Oh, I did have one more white one. I would have liked to have filled that in somewhere, but that's okay. Okay, now my hands have all these little, I have dog hair everywhere. You know, it's like I sweep every 2 minutes around here. Hey, Marcia, welcome. Okay, sweep every 2 minutes around here, and there's still dog hair everywhere. Okay, so now I'm going to take my card, and I'm going to glue my wreath onto the card, but I'm going to do so with dimensionals. Now this is kind of a big piece, so of course I'm going to use 8,000 dimensionals. You don't have to. And what would have worked well here also is if you have foam adhesive sheets, you could have just cut one down so that you're not having to pull off 8,000 backs off of your dimensionals. So tear these off. Hey Colleen, welcome. I like to make wreaths a lot, Joyce, and you know, they're a little time consuming, but I like wreaths. I think they're really pretty. And you can do them year round. I mean, we think of wreaths as in Christmas, but you can do spring colors, you can do summer colors. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and lay this kind of, not quite the middle, I want it up just a little bit. And it looks like I've got some glue on the front of that circle there, which the circle I just cut from my Stylish Shapes dies. I'll show those to you here in just a second in case you haven't seen them before. And right now I'm using my glue eraser just to try to get some of this excess glue off, or my adhesive eraser. This is not a Stampin' Up! Product. You can get it from Amazon for a couple bucks. Or right now, my birthday is Thursday, and I am turning 50. So if you place an order on my website of $50 or more by next Wednesday night, I will send you one of these little babies for free. Okay, so, oops, there's still a little bit there. Okay, now I'm going to take this little vase, and I think that's a really pretty vase, and we're going to put some dimensionals on it. And I wanted to be able to support this neck there, but the dimensionals themselves are a little too wide. So I'm just trimming off a piece of the edge here. Because remember, I mean, it's still foam adhesive as well. So don't throw that away when you've used all the dimensionals on a sheet. Be sure to use the edges as well. And I'm just going to set this right in the middle. Like so. And then now I have some of my twine here. This is actually hemp twine, and you can buy it in a 5-pack. It comes with all 5 of the new in colors in it. This one is boho blue, and now I'm just using my little bow jig. There's all sorts of little bow makers you can get off of the internet, Amazon, whatever. And I'm going to make a triple bow here. Just like so. Pull it nice and tight like this. And then I like to spread out the little loops. Oops. And I'm just going to put it kind of on an edge here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take my glue dots, if I can figure out where I put them. Why am I losing everything today? Okay, my glue dots right here. Now this is a little thicker and heavier than the last bow we did, so I don't have to really roll up that glue dot, because the knot of my bow is going to be big enough that it will hide that just fine. So I want to put it right about there. I love how that's hanging down. I'm trying to decide if I think it's too long or if I kind of like it that length. What do you guys think? It might be a little much. I think I'll trim it down still. Now, Tanya says she likes it long like this, so I'll wait and see what you guys think. What do you guys think? Long like this, or trim it down more? Maybe not as short as this one, but trim it down. I'm thinking if I trim it down, I would do it about this long. Yeah, Susan says it's a little long too. Okay, so let's compromise, and we're going to do maybe not as short as my other one, but not quite that long. And then as our last little bit on this card, we're going to put some glossy dots. I'm going to pull out this pack because I want the medium-sized ones. We'll put one right there, one there, one there. Okay, now this card is done. Still got glue on it, and I may come back before I send this out to somebody and just kind of pick off some of that extra glue. But isn't that pretty? I love that wreath. As you saw, it was time consuming. I think it's worth it. I enjoy doing it, but it's certainly not a card you would really be able to mass produce because it would just take too long. Okay. Now, put some stuff away and get going on our last card. So our last card, I wanted to pull in a little of this Calypso coral, but also the navy. So I took these little framed pieces and I actually added them together. This middle one, this blue one, actually fits perfectly inside of the one with this little polka dots, but I've popped it up a little with some foam adhesive. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see what I did on the inside. And for this one, I did what you guys see me do a lot, where I am gluing on a piece of Designer Series paper onto my envelope flap. Okay, so as always, you want to make sure you're not putting too much glue on, and this is going to be a little hard because I do think this one is starting to run out. By the way, I don't remember who told me this tip, but it was an excellent tip. When you start having that problem where you're starting to run out so it's not coming out quite as easily, if you loosen the other end, it kind of unseals that vacuum and it allows the airflow through it a little better and gets that glue out a little easier. Now I line this up so that the edge of my paper is flush with the top of the envelope. Then rub it in there nice, flip it over, rub the inside as well. And then take your scissors, your snips, and just trim around the edge of your envelope. If you cut your envelope a little bit, it doesn't matter. No one's going to know but you and all the people who watched you on a video do it, but it still looks great, so it doesn't really matter. In fact, when Jackson stamped with me on my live a couple weeks ago, he had said this was one of the things he was kind of concerned about doing properly, and it was a lot easier than he thought it would be. Okay, so now my card base is your standard card base. It's 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, which is a half of a sheet. The sheet would go up this way, it's half of a sheet, and then I've scored it at 4 1/4. Nell says she was the one who told me that, and I use that tip all the time now, Nell. Okay, so now I've got a piece of Night of Navy. This is 5 1/4 by 4, and I have a little piece of the Designer Series paper that was in the paper pack, not in the Paper Pumpkin kit, and it's one of those patterns that I said looks like boxer shorts, and it's only 1/8 of an inch smaller than my Night of Navy, just so that I have a nice little mat. So it's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. I'm going to glue them together and go ahead and just glue them down on the card. See, here's the fox pattern I was telling you guys about. Isn't that adorable? Oh, and I'm running out of adhesive. Okay. Hold on just a sec. Fortunately, I keep refills on hand for just such an occasion as this. And I just pop it right there into my little dispenser case thing. And away we go. Okay, now you can't really see that mat super well, but because it is just slightly darker, when it's on the card itself, it just gives a little bit more of a finished look, which is why I like to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down onto my card now. Lucy, honey, I think there's a bug trapped between my 2 sliding glass doors, and Lucy can't figure out how to get to it. Probably because it can't figure out how to get out. Okay, now what I'm going to do, let's do the inside piece real quick. So I have a piece of basic white. It's 5 1/4 by 4. And I'm going to take that little flower stamp again and my Calypso Coral ink. And I'm going to stamp. And then without re-inking, I'm going to stamp again. And I'm just going to continue to do that. Now when you go off the edge, you want to re-ink before you do a stamped off image, because you get like a line where the edge of the paper was. So there, I think that's good. There's no particular rhyme or reason to the number that I did or the pattern that I put them in. I just put them. We'll go ahead and glue this to the inside of our card. And we'll take the hair out of it, whether it's my hair or Lucy's hair. I swear people who get cards from me get someone's hair in them. Probably both me and Lucy. Oops. Okay. So the inside is done. Now let's start working on the outside. So I've got this great little frame, and I'm just going to center it on here. It fits almost perfectly. Like there's not even a whole lot of room to play there. I'm going to use my liquid glue just because it's so thin. It's easier with the liquid glue. And I'm just going all the way around. A light touch with the glue. Yeah, I don't think this little bottle of glue is much more for this world. In fact, I think as soon as I finish gluing this piece, or maybe before I finish gluing it, I'm going to get a new glue bottle. Ooh. A little blob there. It's like making its last valiant effort at life. Okay, now I'm going to put this on here. And again, another good reason for the liquid glue is because you can wiggle this around to make sure that you get it centered, get it where you want it. And yes, I got too much glue there and it kind of started coming out the edges. Let it dry just a little bit to where it's at least tacky, and then you can take an adhesive eraser and get that extra glue off. And to be honest, that the inside pieces are going to be covered there, so it's really only going to be where I got glue right there that I'm going to want to have to worry about taking it off. Okay, so now I have this one, and we're going to decorate it up a little bit before we put it on the card. So I have this little banner that came in the kit, as well as this tiny little banner that says "Hello, friend." And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the kit, came with these adorable little foam adhesive strips. And it came with some long ones and some shorter ones, and I think I ended up using like 1.5 of the short ones before. That's another nice thing about when you subscribe to Paper Pumpkin and you get the supplies like this. You always get a lot more than you actually need, so you have leftovers for other projects as well, which is really nice. Okay, now what I'm going to do is make sure it's right side up, and I'm going to center it on this little tab here. Whoops, it's not centered. I said I was going to center it and then promptly laid it down way off center. Oh, way off center and crooked that time. I'm really batting 1,000, aren't I? It's kind of tough because it's such a tiny little piece and your fingers get in the way. There. Using my tweezers allows me to have a better idea of where I'm laying it without my fingers being in the way. And it is crooked, but at least I have it centered a little better now. So I lift it up and no, I do not have it centered. I'm a liar. Okay, let's try this again. Let's just try it. As you know, you gotta show it who's boss. I am not gonna let this little banner win. Okay. It's a little crooked, and that's going to bug me. I was going to say it's a little crooked, but we'll live with it, but I know I won't be able to live with it. Okay, and now I'm just going to go ahead and glue this directly onto my frame piece there. Eek. Way more glue than what I really needed there. But that happens toward the end of the bottle. It starts to kind of clump. Okay, so I'm going to push that down, just give it a second to get tacky. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ribbon. This is our edge ribbon, satin edge ribbon, something like that, in Night of Navy, and I'm going to tie a bow. Here we go. Now I'm going to play with the bow, just get my loops and tails going the directions that I want them to go, getting them the size I want them to be. And right now it's a little off center, and that doesn't bother me. I don't care, because I can recenter it once I get my bow the way I want it. I can kind of slide it around a little bit. There we go. See, slide it. And I can slide it up and down if I want it to be down a little lower, which I did. And now I'm going to go ahead and... This little piece of foam adhesive just didn't want to leave. There we go. So now we've got that bow done. I'm going to take my foam adhesive sheets. They come in 6 4.5 by 4.5 inch sheets. You can see I've already trimmed that one down. I always keep my little pieces because I'll still use them. But I'm going to put this one right down the center. And then I have a bunch of little ones that I'll use to kind of prop it up a little bit on the sides. See how much quicker this is than using 1,000 dimensionals? Okay. So, I'm going crazy over here, you guys. Okay, so now we're going to peel this off. Now, remember, the foam adhesive sheets are pretty unforgiving. Once they stick, you're pretty much stuck. So with a piece like this where you want it to be aligned absolutely perfectly, take your time, make sure you do it the way you want it, but also don't press it down right away. If you have only lightly laid it down, if you have to move it, it's easier to do that. Okay, I like it, so I'm going to go ahead and push it down. And then these little dots came in the kit. I'm going to add a few to the card. Maybe. There. Wow, that's very crooked. I'll just send it to someone who I know is going to love me, even if their card's crooked. Which really, you know, should be anybody you send a card to. So there we go. Card number 3 with its matching envelope. So let's clean up this mess. We'll take it. Oh, and I also have 3 additional cards I want to show you that I made. Just to give you a few more ideas, some food for thought. If you liked what you saw tonight or you had some fun, I would love it if you would give me some likes, some thumbs up, subscribe to my page, both on Facebook and YouTube. That helps the algorithms say, hey, people like her, and they help push my name out there more. That helps my business a lot. And again, like I said earlier, if you can share my video, that really helps me too. Okay, now the 3 additional cards I made for you. I decided to, I'll show you this one first because it stayed with the color theme. I used the little pots they were die cut pots that came in the kit, the envelope that came in the kit, the dots came in the kit. This is a strip of, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think this was designer series paper, not one of the card fronts. But that was that little card, and I put an extra little pot on the inside just so there was something in there. Now I have 2 where I deviated from the blue theme a little bit. Now this still used the colors that were in the paper because I had the crushed curry flower and the Calypso Coral flower. I added a few of my brushed brass butterflies. I always have to think really hard before I say that. And then some of the designer series paper from our, let me see here, Inked Botanicals designer series paper. And then I had some twine that I took my Calypso Coral marker and colored it so that it matched a little bit better. And then this banner was also one of the die cuts in the kit, and I added that little strip to it to tie in that designer series paper. So we've got that card. And then this one, I really deviated from the colors because these colors weren't really even in it. I got this one, the envelope that I stamped, and then I decided to use our Moody Mauve and the navy, which of course was one of the colors in it, added a few dots. This was a very, very simple card. Go-to sayings, I think is what this was called, or I can't recall offhand what it was called. But this is the banner that I used like on the inside here, but I flipped it over. The back side of it was white, and then I used one of my blender brushes to color it the Moody Mauve. So you can see there's a lot you can do with these kits. You can stick to even doing different things. You can stay true to the colors of the kit. You can branch out a little bit, use a little of the color. You can use none of the colors. There's a lot you can do. So let's bring back the cards that we made tonight. So we have this guy, and we have this guy, and wait. Let's see. We have this one that we made. And then, of course, we have the ones that Stampin' Up! Designed for us. We've got that one. I'm getting kind of toward the edge, aren't I? I've got this one and this one. So you can see there's a lot of cards. I have 6, 9, 12 cards here. So you can do a lot with your kit. You can get a lot made. Now, if you're interested in signing up for Paper Pumpkin, you can do that right there on my website in the shopping section at heathersides.stampinup.net. If your order is under $150, it helps me a lot if you could use the host code. That helps me continue to provide my videos for free. I do prizes on Wednesday nights, that kind of thing. But if your order is over $150, please don't use the host code. You'll have some free goodies coming to you from Stampin' Up! And I want to make sure that you are the one who receives them. So if you have any questions, concerns, suggestions, anything like that, I'm always open to hearing them. You can email me at stamphappenings@gmail.com or send me a message here on Facebook. And last reminder, don't forget that this month Stampin' Up! Is offering an amazing deal on our starter kit. If you've ever thought of joining Stampin' Up!, now is a great time to do it. For $99, you get to pick out $155 worth of products of your choice, plus you get a Paper Pumpkin kit, plus you get free shipping, plus you get some catalogs and such, plus you get a discount on your own products that you purchase. Then we also have through the end of the month, and that special is through the end of June. We also have a paper sale going on through the end of June where all of our designer series paper, including this paper that we use tonight, is 15% off. So again, you can find out more about those by either asking me about it through email or message here on Facebook, or you can go right to my website to find out more and shop. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. I had a great time. I hope you did too. And I will see you guys next month with our Fun in the Sun Paper Pumpkin kit. Good night, everybody.